You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14.
Right now it's 7. We'll take a deeper look at what the elimination of a federal grant means for aspiring teachers in Missouri.
Also, Missouri food banks are set to lose millions in funding after a grant is canceled.
And we have an alert day in place today. Strong, severe thunderstorms appear likely after about 8 o'clock tonight. This threat could carry on until nearly noon tomorrow. Have a look at that forecast coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Samantha Walker.
I'm Chris Warner. It is just after 7 a.m. now on this Tuesday, April the 1st. Of course, it's April Fool's Day. So, be cautious with your pranks. You don't want to visit from HR. You also don't want to end up with a divorce or anything like that because you take it too far. But definitely could have a little fun today.
And I mean, you have to worry even after leaving work because you have kids at home.
I have kids at home who undoubtedly are learning in school this morning that it's April Fool's Day, and we'll probably have some fun with it a little later. When I get home. And speaking of education, some concerns in the state of Missouri.
Definitely. Fallout from President Trump's efforts to dismantle the Department of Education is already trickling down to the 4 states. A federally funded $4.2 million grant called the Teacher Quality Partnership Grant is now eliminated.
The TQP grant was aimed at combating teacher shortages in rural areas. KOAM's Lonnie Walton spoke with the Southwest Center for Educational Excellence in Joplin about the impact.
I spoke to 2 local educators who say losing this federally funded grant could put a lot of strain on our educational system.
I'll tell you that my daughter was part of the grant.
Tony Rosie is a local superintendent who has a daughter who is currently in school to become a teacher. To help her pay for her education, she's using a TQP grant.
He was a para who is now teaching in a position and working to get her certification.
She's not the only one working on this certification. There are a lot more who are using the funding and now are completely cut off. Melissa Massey for the Southwest Center of Educational Excellence says we need teachers in our community right now.
I would urge the community to look at is whether you have children in the Seneca, the Joplin, the Webb City, the Carthage School District. That's irrelevant. We have teachers that we can't fill in those positions. So we do have a teacher shortage.
And according to Massey and Rossetti, it's not just any teacher, it's the quality also.
These people are already in education, so they know what it's like to be in the classroom.
And right now, people aren't going into the teacher profession. And by them closing the TQP grant, that shows that is not a priority.
With that said, there are ways to help.
I urge the community to contact our legislators, not because they canceled our grant, because we want quality teachers in all of our classrooms.
Reporting in Joplin, I'm Lonnie Walton, KOAM News.
Massey says students who lost funding during the education process are currently working with MSSU to receive reduced tuition.
Certainly a lot of things going on at the federal level that does trickle down to the state level, and even though states do govern themselves, there's still a lot of federal responsibility for all of that too.
Yeah,
so it's a lot to keep an eye on.
I think people are just kind of figuring out what the situation is.
Exactly. No figuring out what the situation is today. We have an alert day for late this evening into tomorrow for the potential for severe weather. We're going to get your day started for your Tuesday. If you stick with us in just a few more minutes, we'll break down the severe threat hour by hour as we head into the overnight hours tonight. Let's start though with that look outside downtown Pittsburgh. We have mostly cloudy skies. Now, under normal circumstances, mostly cloudy skies through the day would work to reduce that severe threat. And while they might help a little, unfortunately, based on the new data from late last night into the overnight hours and new information this morning, the cloud cover is not going to be enough to eliminate or significantly reduce the severe threat that we have heading into tonight. But again, mostly cloudy skies out there, mostly cloudy from the MoDOT camera 20th and range line with it zoomed in. Makes it a little more sensitive to those wind shakes, but it is breezy and it will remain breezy. We're looking at non-thunderstorm wind gusts tonight, by the way, upwards of 50 miles an hour. That's outside of the thunderstorm threat. And that's why some of us do have a wind advisory in place through the early morning hours tomorrow for those south winds tonight that, again, out outside of any thunderstorms we see, could be gusting upwards of 50 miles an hour. Today, mostly cloudy, southeast breeze gusting to about 35. Temperatures warmer, upper 60s and low 70s out there. Then we get to about 8 o'clock. Now, with the future track, bear in mind, it is not saying that there's going to ultimately be a supercell in this place at this exact time, but it's showing that the environment will be favorable for supercell development in southeast Kansas between 8 p.m. and about 1 a.m. And that's why heading into tomorrow, we have an enhanced risk for late this evening, for severe thunderstorms in southeast Kansas, because if we see 1 or 2 supercells, they're going to carry the threat for very large hail and, unfortunately, the threat for tornadoes as well. We have an elevated risk outside of that, and then as this line of storms pushes through overnight, we have a low to enhanced risk for severe weather heading into the first half of our Wednesday. And again, we're going to break that all down in detail for you in a moment. Quick look at temperatures warming up out there. 47 Joplin, 45 in Pittsburgh. Across the area, we're in the low to mid 40s, starting to see a few more upper 40s, and even look at Veneta now sitting at 50. Again, our highs today about 70, so some upper 60s, low 70s, mostly cloudy. Southeast winds gusting to about 35. As I mentioned, we're going to break down this severe threat hour by hour for you here in just a few more minutes. Samantha?
Thanks, Chris. Authorities confirm a man injured in a motorcycle accident in Joplin this weekend has died. The crash happened Saturday evening at West 7th and Adele Avenue in Joplin. Authorities say a westbound motorcycle collided with an eastbound SUV that was turning north. The motorcycle operator was rushed to an area hospital but has now died. Authorities are not releasing his name or age. The driver of the SUV was also transported to an area hospital. Authorities have launched a homicide investigation following an overnight shooting in Lawrence County, Missouri. At about 11 Sunday night, deputies responded to the area of Lawrence 2240 in Aurora. When they arrived, they found a man dead in the road with what appeared to be a gunshot wound. Authorities determined the suspect had fled the area. Greene County deputies found the suspect and took that person to the Lawrence County Jail. Formal charges are pending. Missouri food banks say they're expecting to lose millions of dollars in donations from the USDA this year. It comes as the USDA confirms that $500 million in the Emergency Food Assistance Program food purchases have been permanently canceled. Ozarks Food Harvest in Springfield says they'll lose $3 million in food from the USDA. Staff at the food bank say their network of 270 charities will be unable to fill the funding gap. The Emergency Food Assistance Program made up nearly 25% of the food the bank distributes. And those are our top news stories this half hour. Coming up, Charlene Patton shares her recipe for black bean salsa. And in Nation Watch, voters in Missouri may be seeing their abortion ban back on the ballot. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Topping Nation Watch this morning. The Department of Homeland Security is eliminating its involvement in a ceremonial step to citizenship. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services have told employees at all field offices to no longer participate in naturalization ceremonies in locations that have adopted sanctuary policies. USCIS says that policy change will not affect someone's chances of becoming a naturalized citizen. A senior official says that such ceremonies will be held in locations where the rule of law is respected. A joint military operation over the weekend deported another 17 people to El Salvador. The State Department claiming the group are foreign criminals. A State Department press release saying the deportations were done as part of an executive order from President Donald Trump, designating the gangs are former terrorist organizations. This despite a judge temporarily blocking the Trump administration from deporting people. Abortion could be on the Missouri ballot again this year. That's despite voters nearly 5 months ago approving a constitutional amendment that allows abortions in the state. Beth Carlson has the story.
Who gets to decide whether abortion is legal?
Most of the people who I encounter do not want legislators setting the confines for the factors they need to consider in consultation with their doctor.
Back in November, voters approved Amendment 3, legalizing abortion in Missouri. Since then, Republicans have made new proposals to counter that amendment.
If passed, through our legislative process, the language of this HJR would be presented for a vote of the people in Missouri by being placed on the ballot.
Last month, Republican Representative Melanie Stinnett proposed a measure that would put a near total abortion ban back on the ballot.
Substitute signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. The ayes have it. You've adopted the substitute.
Missouri Planned Parenthood locations are offering some procedural abortions. But last week, the Secretary of State's office wrote an emergency rule that rejected the clinic's submitted plans to offer medication abortions. I talked to the Planned Parenthood Great Plains CEO back in February. She says they predicted this pushback from lawmakers.
We'll be able to say these restrictions are politically motivated, they're not in line with standards of care, and we anticipate that those restrictions will be blocked and will continue access there in Columbia.
That brings us to today, when the House Committee for Families and Children passed the measure to ban most abortions. It would bar all abortions except in the case of medical emergencies, rape or incest, or fetal anomaly, which would be legal in the first 12 weeks of pregnancy.
The resolution could make its way back to an election ballot if it gets full legislative support, and the same from Missouri's governor. Now here's Chris with a quick look at your forecast.
Yeah, we have our alert day today because of that threat for strong to severe thunderstorms late evening. We're going to break down the details when we come back. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. 7:16 now on this Tuesday morning. I've been talking a lot about Wednesday, and this is why we have an alert day for late this evening into tomorrow morning. We do have an elevated wind risk across the region for this evening into tomorrow. The bigger concerns here is this elevated to enhanced hail risk and an elevated to enhanced tornado threat across the area. The other concern, we've talked about those hatch marks with hail. That means significant hail, possible 2 inches in diameter or greater. Unfortunately, the hatch marks in the tornado risk indicate the possibility of a strong tornado. So we're talking EF2 or greater. Now, I want to also emphasize that this enhanced risk is all dependent on the possibility of supercell development sometime between 8 p.m. and about 1 a.m. tonight. If we get even just one, and we may only see one, it will have that potential for very large hail and that tornado threat. Now, the elevated tornado threat and hail risk that continue off to the east is because then we get a line of storms after about 2-3 o'clock in the morning that will bring those same risks with it. They'll just be a hair lower as that line rolls on off to the east. That then carries our threat into the first half of our Wednesday. So you see where that line's expected to be. We've got the low to elevated tornado threat heading into tomorrow. We have a low to enhanced hail risk with those hatch marks again indicating the possible of significant hail, and a low to elevated wind risk as we head into our Wednesday. So we're looking at, all in all, a severe threat that could last from roughly 8 o'clock this evening through nearly noon tomorrow across the area. So you need to make sure your cell phone is charged. You need to make sure you've got the KOAM Skywatch weather app and you've got ways to get alerts, and just make sure you have your plan in place. You do not want to be caught off guard with these storms heading into tomorrow. Through today, ahead of it, we are mostly cloudy, we are breezy, we are warm. Southeast winds gusting to 35 and temperatures into the upper 60s and low 70s. Here we are, 8-9 o'clock. Now, again, with the future track, it is simply picking up on the fact that the environment will be favorable for at least a supercell or two. It does not mean at 9 o'clock there will be one right here, but it is showing us that that's a possibility with those supercell development tonight. Then we get a little bit of a pause in activity before we start to see this line of storms roll in by 5. 3/8 center coming up on Fredonia, Chanute, back through Howard and Sedan. As it continues to push off to the east, it's now from Butler down through Fort Scott, Parsons, east of Coffeyville, and heading down into Craig County. By 8 a.m., we're now in Nevada, Pittsburgh, just to the west of St. Baxter and Galena Riverton area, and north of the Will Rogers Turnpike. By about 9 a.m., that would put it in Lamar, Joplin, Miami, Veneta. By 10, we go from Stockton back down toward Carthage, Neosho, Anderson, and Grove. And then again, by noon, you can see the last of those showers out there starting to roll on off to the east. So that's why this severe threat continues for so long, because we get the supercell potential late this evening, and then we have that line of storms tracking through the area through the first half of our Wednesday. So again, don't let your guard down. You need to be weather aware. Make sure you're ready. On top of that, I do not want to forget, we have some wind advisories out there through the early morning hours. Again, our winds today, southeast gusting upwards of 35. Tonight, non-thunderstorm wind gusts out of the south, gusting to 50. And then, of course, we'll have the risk for strong to severe wind gusts with any thunderstorms we see. Mid-70s tomorrow. Will clear out by the afternoon. Still breezy. Winds still gusting upwards of 45 tomorrow. Showers, maybe a rumble of thunder all the way through Sunday morning. There is a severe risk Friday to our south. It's close, but not here. But we'll need to keep an eye on it. Hopefully it stays to our south. Be a little cooler into the weekend. Sunshine returns next week with more warm weather. That's a check of your forecast. We are back with more right after this.
Well, April is National Soy Foods Month, and who other to join us to talk about soy recipes than Charlene Patton from the Kansas Soybean Commission. And this morning, we are also joined by Roger Drager, a soy farmer from Galena, Kansas. Good morning, you guys, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Well, I thought it'd be great to kick off the month to recognize National Soy Foods Month by showing all the many foods that are available, and we'll talk about why we need them. And what better than to have a local soybean farmer here. I've got this little thankful sign here because we have 12,000 soybean farmers in Kansas. Oh, wow. A lot of them right around here, Roger.
Yes.
And Roger's going to tell us a little bit about the soybeans here.
Yes, most of our soybeans are raised for protein. 80% of the bean is actually for meal, and the other 20% is for oil, which most of the meal goes to meat production for protein value. And the other 20% is oil, which is a lot of what Charlene cooks. And interesting enough, there's like 40-some% is actual oil, but the 42% actually goes into fuel. So we use a lot of it for fuel and food. So.
Wow, so many uses.
Yes, there is a lot of uses.
The recipe we're featuring this month actually is that can of black soybeans. If you have trouble finding some of the soy foods in the grocery store, look online, because ever since COVID, then it's a little harder maybe to find certain ones. But the black soybeans, we use those so much in Mexican cooking and different recipes, but you should actually use the ones with it are the soy, because you're getting that protein content that is so important. We need to have about 25 grams of soy protein every day, and by doing that, then we're reducing the risk of heart disease. You want me to tell you about some of these other recipes?
Yes,
oh, right, Samantha. Samantha, hold that one up. That is chocolate soy milk, and here we have a vanilla soy milk. I love that you can get them in these little to-go containers. This is very vanilla, and then the chocolate one. This is great. We showed this in the winter because this is an easy way to make hot cocoa, and we still might have some cold days that we want to have that. So that's good. A lot of times people look to soy as a substitute if they're allergic to something. So the soy milk would be great if you're lactose intolerant, that you would have it. Some of the other things that we have here, we have granola that you can find in cereals. We love these new products. You'll see these in the grocery store. These are toppers for salads. So it has the soy nuts in it and makes a great topper when you're making salad. Probably one of the ingredients that people maybe don't even realize that's in their cupboard is the soybean oil. And if this says vegetable oil, unless it says some other kind of oil, all vegetable oil would be made from soybeans. And I'll just show you this. See, the only ingredient in there, soybeans.
It's so incredible to see all soybeans and their impact on all the products we love. Thank you so much, Charlene and Roger, for joining us this morning. We'll have more news and weather when we come back.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:28. I'm Samantha Walker. Pittsburgh High School has a new lead principal, a member of the Dragon family since joining as a math teacher in 2017. Chris Krotz, who has served as assistant principal since 2023, says he's honored to step into the role and looks forward to working with staff and students to inspire excellence. He officially takes over on July 1st, while the search for a new assistant principal begins immediately. Interested candidates can apply on the district website. New leadership takes the reins at Freeman Health System. Paula Baker officially handed over leadership of Freeman to new president Matthew Fry. Fry, who was chosen as the health system's new leader in January by Freeman Health System's Board of Directors, assumes leadership duties today. Before his move to Missouri, Fry served as the president and CEO of St. John's Hospital and St. John's Children's Hospital in Springfield, Illinois, as well as market president and CEO for the entire Central Illinois market of Hospital Sisters Health System.
I can't pretend that I'm going to be as effective or as awesome, frankly, as Paula. But she's been doing a lot and really going above and beyond to ensure that I'm positioned for success in this new role.
Paula Baker, who announced her retirement in early 2024, has served in various roles with Freeman since 1981, including presiding over the health system for the last 13 years. Now here's Chris with a quick look at your forecast.
Yeah, we have an alert day in effect today. It's really for late this evening into tomorrow morning, as we have a severe threat that's looking more likely as we head across the area late tonight. All right, quick look outside. Mostly cloudy skies downtown Pittsburgh, and we have mostly cloudy skies from the MoDOT camera, 20th and Range. You can see a little daylight getting in there, so that's why we call it mostly cloudy. You can also see the camera shaking because it is breezy and it is going to get windier. We have wind advisories, at least for some of you, through the early morning hours tomorrow. And overnight tonight, we're talking non-thunderstorm wind gusts out of the south at about 50 miles an hour. So that's going to be one thing just to kind of add insult to injury with any storms that we do get tonight. So here's what we're looking at on the future track through the afternoon. To most of today, we're mostly cloudy, we're breezy, we're warmer than where we were yesterday, upper 60s, low 70s. And then late this evening, around 8 o'clock or so, between 8 p.m. and 1 a.m., I'm going to say, we have an opportunity to see supercell development into southeast Kansas. Now, again, the future track, it's not guaranteeing that there's going to be a supercell right here at this time, but it's saying that this environment will be favorable for supercell development. If we get that to take place, then in the enhanced area that we have across southeast Kansas, there's going to be a slightly greater chance for very large hail and a tornado risk out there as well. We have an elevated to enhanced risk across most of the area for late this evening into tomorrow. The risk will begin to move east, so we have that low to enhanced risk as a line of storms will roll through overnight tonight. And we're going to go over all of this in detail, and I honestly mean we're going to break it down hour by hour here in just a few more minutes. We're going to get your day started, though. Fairly warm compared to yesterday, a little bit better at least anyway. 47 Joplin, 45 in Pittsburgh right now. Across the region, southeast winds already gusting to 20. Most of us right around the mid-40s out there, with Miami a little warmer at 49. And again, our highs today about 70, so we'll see upper 60s to the north and low 70s down to the south with those mostly cloudy skies. As I mentioned, we're going to go over this sort of severe threat with you. We're going to break down all the hazard types that we're looking at, what we're expecting, and go over the hour by hour with you here in just a few more minutes. Samantha?
Thanks, Chris. A Kansas state budget cut could eliminate funding for an organization that provides grants for art, possibly leading to the loss of local art programs. KOAM's Melissa Alexis has more.
Express ourselves on stage is by telling the stories.
Tony Sanchez, the board president of the Pittsburgh Community Theater, says art and theater are a big part of his life. And Pittsburgh Community Theater is something he's been involved with for over 20 years. Sanchez says one of his favorite things about the arts is the ability to share it with others in the community, which is why he believes cutting funding for the Kansas Art Commission, who provides grants for art projects throughout Kansas, would have a negative impact, especially on a small rural town like Pittsburgh.
Cut something entirely, that really is counterintuitive to, creating a great community and enhancing people's lives through the arts. The arts bring a lot of energy and jobs.
The Kansas Senate recently approved a budget that cuts funds for the Kansas Art Commission. Darcy Schultz, the general manager of Memorial Auditorium in Pittsburgh, says this defunding could hinder music, community theater, mural creations around town, and even arts education.
Limit the number of performances or productions that an organization is able to produce. It could limit the offerings. It could raise ticket prices, because now the organization is having to find ways to generate that revenue.
Schultz says art adds vibrance and employment opportunities to the community and worries that without a buzzing art community in Pittsburgh, some people could opt to leave the town. And Schultz puts out a call to action.
And you want it to stay a vibrant place to live. Please contact your local representatives and express your concern.
Reporting in Pittsburgh, Melissa Alexis, KOAM News.
The Kansas state budget now moves to a conference committee. That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. Trump's tariffs are set to go into effect starting tomorrow. We'll have the latest from Washington. Thousands of federal health workers may have their jobs eliminated under a new directive. A report by the Associated Press says that about 82,000 federal workers in various agencies may be looking for job cut notices in their email. Workers have been bracing for mass dismissals since Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced 20,000 fewer health jobs would be needed and 10,000 would be cut by layoffs. Some agencies would be folded into a new administration for a healthy America. The FTC worries about the release of Americans' information following a DNA testing company filing for bankruptcy. 23andMe's privacy policy says users' data may be sold to other firms. The company says the bankruptcy will not affect how customers' data is protected or stored. FTC Chairman Andrew Ferguson says anyone that purchased a 23andMe kit is bound to the company's privacy policy. President Trump is preparing for a trade war. On Wednesday, he's planning to slap tariffs on all U.S. trading partners. Fox News correspondent Rebecca Castor is at the White House with the latest.
This is the beginning of Liberation Day in America. I call it Liberation Day in America. April 2nd is Liberation Day.
After weeks of teasing it, April 2nd is almost here, when President Trump plans to implement a massive tariff plan, including reciprocal tariffs on foreign countries.
He is trying to fix decades of unfair trade practices that have ripped our country off, that have sent jobs overseas, and that have forced millions of Americans out of their jobs.
Tariffs will be far more generous than those countries were to us, meaning they will be kinder.
Even so, Trump says all countries, not just those with the largest trade deficits, will be taxed on Wednesday. And he's already slapped taxes on all foreign steel, aluminum, and vehicles.
Think ahead to a year or two from now. Now that we have those auto tariffs, how many cars are going to be made in the U.S. by U.S. firms with U.S. workers? It's going to be a boom.
But critics are worried about unintended economic consequences, like inflation jumping back up or a recession.
There's nobody I've heard that has suggested that this initiation of tariff wars is good economic policy, and it's certainly not the way to bring down prices for working families.
Voters are skeptical too. With a new AP poll finding, 6 in 10 Americans disapprove of the way Trump is handling trade negotiations.
That same AP poll, though, found that about half of U.S. adults are still on board with Trump's immigration policies. At the White House, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
And those are our top consumer stories. Let's take a look at the market prices before the opening bell.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News, 7:42 now on this Tuesday morning, and we do have an alert day today, really for late this evening into tomorrow, and this is why. We have an elevated wind risk for the bulk of the area. We have an elevated to enhanced hail risk, and unfortunately an elevated to enhanced tornado threat out there as well. The other issue, the concerning issue we have, is these hash marks for the hail and tornado threat. For the hail, that means significant hail, 2 inches in diameter or greater will be possible. For the tornado threat, it does mean there's a possibility of a strong tornado, EF2 or greater in strength. But there's a catch to that. These enhanced risks are also associated with the possibility of supercell development ahead of the main line of storms overnight tonight. If we get a supercell storm or two, they will have the capability of intensifying rapidly and then potentially producing these potential threats here. We may only get one supercell storm, but even just that one could get nasty in a hurry. We want to keep a very close eye on that. Then we have that line of storms. That's going to lead to its own situation for us. We have an elevated, low to elevated tornado risk as we head into our Wednesday. We have a low to enhanced risk for hail with those hatch marks reaching back even as far west as, say, Riveter, Baxter Springs, along the I-44 corridor. And then we have a low to elevated wind threat. This is associated with a line of storms that we're going to show you in a moment that will be rolling through tomorrow. So we are looking at, all in all, a severe window from roughly 8 tonight through nearly noon tomorrow. This is a bigger event. It's a longer event, and the threat for severe weather will exist during virtually that entire period as well. Through today, ahead of it, we are warm, we are breezy, we are mostly cloudy, and ordinarily the mostly cloudy skies would have an impact. The only potential impact the mostly cloudy skies could have is on supercell development, but unfortunately, even that isn't looking as though it's going to have that significant of an impact on storm development tonight. So we're going to start going hour by hour almost here. So 8 o'clock. Could start to see supercell development. Here we are at 9. Now again, the future track is showing that supercell development is possible. Does not mean there will be a storm right here at this spot at this time. But by showing a supercell out there and what looks like it could be a pretty nasty one, it does indicate that that possibility looks to exist, and that lines up with those higher hail and tornado threats across southeast Kansas. And we get a break in activity. Then toward 3 a.m. tomorrow, we start to see another line of showers and storms, strong to severe, all hazards possible with these, and they will continue to push off to the east and southeast. So by 6 a.m., we've got Chanute just outside Fredonia to the north of Fort Scott. And then by 7, we're into Fort Scott, around Parsons, Oswego, and back into Craig County in Oklahoma. Then by 8 a.m., it's Nevada through Pittsburgh, Cherokee County, and then just north of the Will Rogers Turnpike by 9. Now we're into Stockton, Lamar, Joplin, Miami, Veneta. And then by 10 a.m., we're now roughly Stockton, back through Carthage, Neosho, Anderson, and Grove. And then again by noon is when we're left with those lingering showers. So a lot to keep an eye on. You've got to be weather aware. A quick reminder as well, we have wind advisories for some through 4 a.m. We'll have winds gusting out of the southeast upwards of 35 miles an hour today. Highs right about 70, mid-70s tomorrow. Overnight tonight, winds could be gusting upwards of 50. It's non-thunderstorm winds. Non-thunderstorm wind gusts tomorrow upwards of 45. And we got some additional rain chances heading into the weekend. Let's check out your forecast. We're back with more right after this.
March was Women's History Month. We wanted to take a moment to recognize a regional woman who made history by helping build infrastructure during World War II.
Anna Valdez introduces us to a real-life Rosie the Riveter.
Turning 100 years old is not the only milestone for Connie Palacios, Wichita's own Rosie the Riveter. Volunteering at the B-29 dog hangar is where she keeps history alive.
When visitors come and they ask us, and then to tell them that I worked there and then I did this and that everything is still in order, you know. I always tell them there were 7 rivets missing when he was in the desert.
During World War II, women entered the workforce. Many were recruited to assemble planes for the war. Connie Palacios was one of them. She joined Boeing in Wichita at just 17 years old and became a riveter, working on the B-29 bomber, the same aircraft used to drop the atomic bombs leading to Japan's surrender and the end of World War II.
I wish all the others that work with me could be here, but of course they're gone. But I don't know, it's been great. It's just been something that I cannot tell you exactly how, but I feel wonderful to be here.
Today, Connie still volunteers at the B-29 hangar and visitor center, where visitors look for her to learn how she helped open doors for women in the aviation industry.
It does feel like an honor, but also a responsibility to do a really good job when you are the first woman doing anything. And to meet Connie is just such a thrill because she was the first of the first to do a man's job and to do it well.
For Palacios' daughter, she says seeing the admiration people have for her mother is incredible.
Her role was just as important, but sometimes she'll say, I wasn't a veteran like they were, but she did her work for the service and for our country.
Palacios hopes to continue inspiring women and encourages them to never give up.
To keep on going, never give up, and to give a good example to everybody.
As you can see behind me, this is a B-29 bomber that was found in China Lake, California back in 1987 and brought back here to Wichita. Connie helped in the restoration of this plane, similar to her work as a Riveter during World War II. Once the plane was restored, she also saw it take flight once again in the sky.
How great that we're able to kind of get to celebrate this living piece of history.
Absolutely. Very, very impressive, and a great story, of the Rosie the Riveters, they did a lot of work behind the scenes to help out during World War II. We do have that severe threat today. We have an alert day, and it's for late this evening into tomorrow morning. So we're going to break it down one more time for you. So here's a look at our risks. Now, this is actually scheduled to update at 8 a.m. It hasn't updated yet. Sometimes it's early, sometimes it's late, but this is what we're saying at right now. Elevated wind risk out there, elevated to enhanced hail risk, elevated to enhanced tornado threat, with these hash marks indicating the possibility of significant hail 2 inches in diameter or larger, and of the possibility of a strong tornado, EF2 or greater, within these zones. And that's why we have those enhanced, because we could see supercell development late this evening between 8 p.m. and 1 a.m. In that section of southeast Kansas. By tomorrow, a line of storms comes through very early tomorrow morning. This is what our risk area is looking like as we go with a low to elevated tornado threat, a low to enhanced hail threat with the significant hail stretching back even as far west as Baxter Springs and Riverton, back down the I-44 corridor, and a low elevated wind threat. And that's going to be associated with a line of storms that's going to roll through after this. Again, today ahead of it, we're mostly cloudy, we're warm, we're breezy. Southeast winds gusting to 35. Then by 8, that's when we start to see a window. Again, not necessarily right in this area, but this lines up with those enhanced areas. And it just updated. Why am I not surprised? Supercell development late this evening, and then we have that possibility for a line of storms after 3 a.m. This severe threat could last until noon. Now we've seen what I was afraid might end up happening. The enhanced tornado threat has been expanded further to the east, along with that possibility of a significant tornado. A hail risk has been as well, and now we have an enhanced wind risk with some hatch marks indicating 70 to 80 mile an hour wind gusts. This is a serious severe weather situation late this evening into early tomorrow morning. Do not be caught unaware. Keep your phone charged. Get the Skywatch weather app. Keep your weather radio handy. You've got to play it safe tonight. We'll have another look at your forecast. News you need to know right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Authorities have launched a homicide investigation following an overnight shooting in Lawrence County, Missouri. Around 11 Sunday night, deputies responded to the area of Lawrence 2240 in Aurora, where they found a man dead in the road with what appeared to be a gunshot wound. The suspect was later arrested by Greene County deputies and transported to the Lawrence County Jail. A federally funded grant aimed at combating teacher shortages in Missouri has been eliminated. Missouri had been approved for the $4.2 million teacher quality grant, but now that funding has dried up. Massey says people using that grant are now working with MSSU for scholarships and tuition reductions. Ozarks Food Harvest in Springfield says they will lose $3 million in food from the USDA. It comes as the USDA confirms that $500 million in the Emergency Food Assistance Program food purchases have been permanently canceled. The Emergency Food Assistance Program made up nearly 25% of the food the bank distributes.
All right, so let's recap some of the changes we've had just this morning, just moments ago. The enhanced tornado risk has been expanded further east and encompasses the bulk of southeast Kansas, as does the hail risk now, and we've had an enhanced wind risk added to the area. All of these zones in the enhanced areas have those hatch marks, which that indicates for wind, the potential for wind 70, 80 miles an hour, potentially greater. For the hail, we're talking hail 2 inches in diameter or greater. With that tornado risk, the hatch marks indicate the possibility of a strong tornado, EF2 or higher. So that's what we're now going to have to watch. Again, ahead of it, we're dry, we're calm, we're windy, and we're warm. Late this evening, between 8 and 1 a.m., supercell development is possible into southeast Kansas. That's where the primary concern with large hail and the tornado threat is going to be. Then we get a brief break in activity, and between about 3 a.m. and noon tomorrow, we get a line of strong to severe thunderstorms that will roll through the area. It may not look impressive here, but it will still be severe and potentially last all the way through noon on our Wednesday. So make sure you stay with us. We'll keep you updated. Today, though, warm, windy, southeast winds gusting 35. Winds tonight outside of storms gusting to 50, but definitely want to keep weather aware over the next about 24 hours or so.
Definitely.
We'll, of course, keep you updated on these storms and have more news and weather at noon.
Have a great rest of your morning.